5 p.m. Again, my name's Ryan Lubin, one of the Public Information Officers for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 6 here on the Caldor Fire. We're going to start our evening out with a quick update. As always, I'd like to remind everybody that's watching and listening that the information is coming out every 7 a.m., 7 p.m., along with other information that's pushed out throughout the day in between those times. So please continue visiting the social media sites, the information updates we're pushing out, sign up for the email updates to make sure you guys stay informed and get that information. So our current acreage of the fire is 98,149 acres, 0% contained, with 1,604 personnel assigned to this incident. That is going to change throughout the day and on those updates for you. So please make sure that you pay attention to what update you're looking at so you get the most up-to-date information. Our information line is on there, our media line. With this, we are getting questions prior to the community meeting, so that's a great thing. Keep sending those questions in, and we'll answer all of them to the best we can for you. With that, I'd like to go ahead and bring up our Ops Section Chief, Will Harris, for a quick operational update.
Thank you. Will Harris, Day Operations with the current situation. We'll start down here in Branch 1, Division Alpha. Currently today, we had some fire in the middle fork of the Consumas River. Make a run up towards the Caldor Road to the north, and we're actively engaged in there, utilizing air tankers and fixed wing, rotor wing, and ground personnel to keep this fire south of Caldor Road at the moment, and that's currently going on as we speak. Going to the north, everything's holding fine along Alpha to the Alpha Delta break. Going north down into Jenkinson Lake, everything is holding along Mormon Immigrant Trail, and down into 50, not much movement in there. We did have some spots in there yesterday that we were actively engaged, and we're having some success in there to keep that put down into Highway 50. Currently, fire growth today has gone to the northeast, and still 50 along the 50 corridor. 50 is holding to the south. You guys might have heard yesterday we did get a spot fire above Kybers, and we have folks engaged in that as well, attempting to get containment lines around that. There is a little bit of growth on that this afternoon. It's tough country, and we're utilizing all the resources we have available to try and wrangle that in. That's ongoing. Our intelligence today with some aircraft infrared, there's no new spots over north of 50, so that's a good thing. Swinging around the horn into Division Juliet, we're currently engaged in some indirect hand line, dozer line, using a pack saddle pass off the 50 and getting it back into Silver Fork Road, and utilizing some control features down back to Mormon Immigrant Trail, and that's ongoing with the resources now. Down in the east side, southeast side, we used fixed wing aircraft and retardant today to paint this edge and keep that pin down to buy some time for us to build some line out ahead of this to get in place and prepare for action on that in the next 24, 48 hours. Everything's holding down here into Papa, Division Romeo, and as we go down into Tango, everything's been sitting there for the last few days. We've been mopping up, reinforcing that line on the south end, and things are holding well all the way into Whiskey, into the branch break. That's the current situation.
Thank you, Chief. With that, we do have some questions that have been submitted online, so we'll go ahead and we'll start moving into our question and answer portion. And I'll bring up our Unified IC, Chief Martin.
Yeah, good evening. So a couple of questions circling around our fire weather and what is it looking like for tonight and tomorrow. So tonight we're going to expect to see the down canyon winds again. That means coming down from the east side and pushing down here. They are going to be light, no real gust winds. They're going to be downslope, down canyon at 2 to 6 miles per hour. For tomorrow, we're supposed to see temperatures around the 70s to 80s. The minimum humidity is going to be in the low to mid 20s. And then we're expecting to see those down canyon winds to switch back around to the southwest again. So right anywhere on the 9, 10 o'clock hour, we should see that switch. They'll be coming southwest 4 to 9 with gusts to 13 miles per hour. And that's what we're looking at for tomorrow. And talking to our incident meteorologist, it sounds like we're going to stay in that consistent pattern for the next couple of days. Got a question about the timeline on reopening Highway 50. And as you can see where our fire is currently, where it's progressing up to here, we've got the spot fire here. It's starting to come getting real close over here. I do not expect to have Highway 50 opened in the near future until we can mitigate the threats. As the fire comes through, we've got trees and we've got damage to the roadway surfaces, and so we need to make sure that that's all safe and that fire isn't going to impinge the highway as we got traffic flowing through there. We will keep you up to date. That is one of our priorities of Incident Management Team 6 is to reopen the highway, but we have to make sure that it is safe to do so and safe for the public to travel. There were some questions about air support. So we heard our operations section chief talk about we did have a fair amount of air support today. The question was on the northeast. So on this upper end up here, the smoke column was laying over this side of the fire, so we weren't able to get any air assets into that due to the way that the wind and smoke was going. But as he did say, we did have it down here. We did put retardant here with our fixed wing assets and then had it working all the way back down on the bottom side. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We did have some questions about our evacuation orders and warnings, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up our law enforcement liaison, Eric Lee.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Lee. I'm the law enforcement liaison for IMT 6. The question that came up had to talk about evacuation warnings and mandatory evacuation orders. So the areas that have previously been put into warnings are still in effect, as are the mandatory evacuation orders. We don't have a timeline in which those might be lifted. And so again, real quick for the definitions, if you're in a mandatory evacuation order area, you have to evacuate that area. You have to be out of that area. You're not allowed to be in there. The warning area is just so that residents and people in that area are aware to prepare. It's kind of like one of those things of keeping your head on a swivel and to be aware of what the fire is doing in case it starts moving in that direction and we have to put an order in. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We did get some additional questions that pertain to the operation, so I'll go ahead and bring our ops section chief, Will Harris, back up.
We had a question, current status of active fire in Grizzly Flat. I covered that on the current status, but this middle fork of the Consumnes River drainage is steep, very steep in nasty country, heavy fuels. And so when fire's backing in there, it's aligned with the wind and slope and up canyon there. So it's a tough piece of ground, and we can only engage when it comes up off the top into the flats where we can safely engage folks. So that's currently going on there in Grizzly. The fire that jumped Highway 50 at the one spot in Kybers, has it jumped in other areas? I covered that. Just about 3 o'clock, we had a flight go over, and no new spot fires on the north side of 50. A little bit of growth on this right shoulder of the current spot fire that we have. And we have folks engaged on that. and I think the IC covered smoke hampering air resources. It just depends on which ways the wind's blowing, where the convection column is leaning, and where it's safe to insert fixed wing, rotor wing. Fixed wing needs larger airspace to get in and work with the air tankers. So we did have some opportunity there today and on the back end here. So wherever there's clean air and where it's safe, the fixed wing helicopters can manipulate the terrain and access areas that the fixed wing aircraft can't get into. So all depending on where the smoke is at. And the smoke's been laying thick in Strawberry in the 50 corridor today. So very little opportunity to get stuff out on the head of the fire. And we have been successful in using aircraft on the rest of the perimeter.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to go ahead and bring up our Unified IC, Ben Newbern.
Good evening, folks. So a couple of questions. First one, will Tahoe lose power? We do have power currently shut off along the Highway 50 corridor where the fire is impacting the highway. As far as utilities being impacted in the Lake Tahoe area, I'd ask that you reach out to your utility provider and ask them about their plans or abilities to manage their utility grid there in your area. Another question, can we define the term containment, and then also speak about the 0% containment and when we might expect full containment. So containment is when we've constructed a fire break, fire line that can withstand the spread of fire, and so that fire line then has to be controlled in such a way that we can no longer reasonably expect fire to spread across that line and out into open country. So containment is 0% right now, and that likely will stay that way until we've done significant mop up and reduce the threat to that line. Specifically down in divisions Alpha and Whiskey in the southwest corner of the fire, we've been working at that some time, and we continue to see heat pop up and give us threats to the line, even coming across the line, that requires us to build new fire lines. And so that will be some time until you see containment. On the maps, you'll see the edge of the fire turn from red to black. That shows where the containment has occurred. Also, containment dates are estimates. We do not really have an idea of how far out it will take, depending on continued fire growth and a number of the other variables that are involved in our firefighting efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We did have some more questions come in, and just going to bring up our Unified IC, Dusty Martin. I'd like to remind everybody, though, that's watching in on Zoom, you can submit your questions through the Zoom platform, and we'll try to get those answered for you as well. With that, Chief Martin.
So a couple of questions came and was asked about water use and are we able to utilize neighborhoods with hydrants. I just want everybody to know we're using all the available water sources that we have to us, and here with the team we have the local water agencies embedded with us, and we're getting spots that we can get water from, what areas are good to utilize, so we're well tied in with them and are able to use all water sources, not just hydrants, but the lakes and other items there. Another question came out if we're, how we're using retardant. So we are using obvious retardant in our fixed wing aircraft, along with our rotor wing aircraft are dipping out of a mobile retardant plant and dropping retardant by helicopter. And then we are in the process of using ground applied retardant as well. So that means it'll be coming out of a mobile retardant plant into trucks and then be sprayed from the ground. That's one tool that we do have to us when the air is smoky and we can't fly our aircraft. If there's roads nearby and that, we can use the ground applied retardant, and we're in the process of that as we speak.
Thank you, Chief. did get some more questions about our operations on the fire, so I'd like to go ahead and bring up our operations section chief again, Will Harris, for those questions.
Got a question about Division Delta update. So particularly in Camp Creek, and there's been fire established in Camp Creek for quite some time, and we're working on, we did do a little burn-in to stay ahead of that on Jenkinson on MET to keep the stuff from Camp Creek from coming out and impacting Mormon Immigrant Trail. But there has been fire in there for quite some time. A question about Sly Park and Pollock Pines. So we'll be continuing to focus on keeping fire east of Sly Park Road and out of the Pollock Pines area, south and east of Pollock Pines, using some control features that we have built along Sly Park Road headed to the southwest. And that's going to be an ongoing operation for the next several days.
Thank you, Chief. Looks like we're answered pretty much almost all the questions that were coming across to us. No real new ones are coming. So with that, I'd like to bring up our agency representative, Chief Blankenheim, for his closing comments.
All right, good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Mike Blankenheim, and I'm the unit chief for the CAL FIRE Amador El Dorado unit, and the CAL FIRE agency representative for the Caldor incident here. So I'm going to close out tonight with a couple things, an explanation on something, and then a little bit of information on some changes we're going to make to the plan in the very near future. So the explanation part is this. I want to talk about control objectives and what they mean for us. What the control objectives are is a way for us to define a geographic area that the ICs and the agency administrators can communicate to the operations section, so we can literally give them a box to work in. When we build the control objectives, we try to put them far enough away from the fire's edge so our operations section has room to plan, room to maneuver, room to choose different tactics, and all those kind of things. They are not places that we ever intend to fight fire from. So the current control objectives for this incident, and they've been stable now for 4 or 5 days, keep the fire north of Highway 88 and Shake Ridge Road. So we want to keep the fire north of this area here. Keep the fire south of Wentworth Springs Road, which is up here. Keep the fire east of Mount Auckham Road and Fiddletown Road, which is here. And up until today, our eastern edge of that box, the eastern edge of that planning area, has been Strawberry Creek, which is an area right along here. So what we're going to end up doing this evening, and this will be reflected on tomorrow's plan, is we're going to move the eastern edge of that box, the eastern control objective, to Highway 89 out here. And the reason we're doing that is the fire has crept close enough to Strawberry Creek where the operations section now doesn't have any more room to maneuver as far as choosing new strategies, choosing new tactics, finding new places to fight the fire from. So you guys are going to see that reflected on the planning meeting that we're going to have tonight, and you're going to see it in the operational briefing tomorrow morning, and that line is going to be changed on the operational maps from here on out. What I do want to say, and I want to reaffirm this, that our operations section, we have no desire to let the fire get to Highway 89. We do not want to be fighting fire from Highway 89. The reason for making that move, like I said before, is to give our folks plenty of room to make different decisions and choose different places to fight the fire from. And I want to be super clear on this too, that our primary strategy is direct attack on the fire, meaning that we've got resources right along the fire's edge right here with bulldozers, hand crews, helicopters, air tankers, and whatnot, and we are continuing to do that. Along with that, with our direct attack approach on the fire's edge, we're also scouting out and building secondary and contingency lines out in front of the fire. And we're planning those and building those now well west of Highway 89. So I just want to reiterate that because you're going to see that eastern edge of the box move out to Highway 89, I want to like really reiterate this, that we don't have any intention of trying or letting the fire get that far. We've got other opportunities to stop this, and we're going to try to take full advantage of those. But that being said, though, because, you know, we've chosen a line already that fire is impinged upon, I'm going to make no guarantees on where we're going to catch this fire at, but I want you to know that we're going to put every effort humanly possible into containing that fire in the current footprint of where it's at right now. So for those of you living in the area around Highway 89, and especially like on the Tahoe Basin side of things, you're not going to see any changes in the immediate future to evacuation warnings or evacuation orders. There's going to be no changes to those for the immediate future. But, and I know you've already been doing this, so please continue to be diligent, pay attention to the news, pay attention to the information we're getting released from the incident and that kind of thing. And as soon as we reach a point where one of those things has to change, we're going to be very informative about that, and you're going to know about it. But just reiterate right now, there are no new changes to the evacuation orders or warnings. I just wanted to share that with you all, so when you start seeing the new maps come out and hear the briefing in the morning and that kind of thing, that you have an explanation on why that line has moved. So with that, I'll close this out tonight, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Chief. With that, we'll be closing our community meeting here in just a few. I just wanted to reiterate some information for those that may have come in just a little late from the beginning of the meeting. So quick update. Our current acreage is 98,149 acres, 0% contained, with 1,604 personnel assigned. I'd like to remind everybody those numbers are subject to change and will change with our updates. Those come out every 7 a.m., 7 p.m., and then within that time frame and throughout the evening, if need be, we send out additional information through those same links, social media, email sign up, websites. So please visit those to stay informed. As you can see, multiple people from all agencies here for you as the community. We're here for one team, one fight, and we want you guys to know that we're here for you to get you back as soon as possible to your houses. So with that, stay informed, stay safe, and have a good night.